All right, we are live. Let me just get this tweeted out here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hope everybody had a great trading day today. Definitely another interesting one today. I mean, a lot of choppy mess again. I guess everybody anticipating Apple moves, and a lot of people, anticipating a down move in Apple. Understandably so, but I guess there's one thing that we can consider is that they did kind of release their earnings early, right? And so the market had enough time basically to price in their shoddy earnings. They also said they weren't going to report iPhone sales, so all they really had to do is put on like a little song and a dance, and maybe say something about better expected revenues or something like that. They didn't even say that, and the market got a boost. So let's kind of look and see what has happened here after market, because it is pretty interesting. Right, so they wait till about 4:30 to release their earnings. So they do that. Initially, we get kind of some up and down movement. Tags all the way down to 151. Right, nice whole round number there, nice key number. Right, and then bounces right all the way up to to 164. So here, we can see just on the 15-minute chart that it got extended. We talked about this when we reviewed Bollinger Bands, but we see how this kind of move up, right? So always in a way, just looking at the chart pattern, makes sense to go up as you're over the Bollinger Band until you get inside it, right? And so at this point, you had basically a double inside 15, and then it did break pretty solidly to the downside. And of course, the computers gobbled all that stuff up pretty quickly. So for a minute there, it looked like it was going to break down. I mean, because they did miss on profit miss, revenue miss, and bad outlook. But this is going to be an interesting one tomorrow. If it doesn't fade in the middle of the night or early pre-market, this will be definitely one to look at on the 15-minute orb list for a potential reversal, right? Or for some follow through if the market just goes completely insane and it keeps going, right? So we have eyes on Boeing for tomorrow, right? So let's see what Boeing's looking like. Yeah, make sure that's on the lists. Okay, it's already kind of going up with with the Apple news, and they've got their conference call is going to be at 9:30 a.m. Central. That's 10:30 Central. So typically you'll have the earnings release before that. It'll make its move, and then they might issue some follow-up statements. Here, so you might get some gap and go, and then a potential reversal if they say something like China, lack of sales there, the trade war is destroying us, and then they end up going down, and then Apple goes down. But this is going to be a key one to watch tomorrow. It's going to carry the Dow certainly at the open. That and my favorite McDonald's, which I banked 4 out of 5 of the spreads today, and carrying one into earnings tomorrow. So this one should be pretty interesting to see as well. So that's kind of overall with the earnings. Definitely should give us some fun stuff to do. Just in general today, Nvidia had that upgrade for no reason. Just straight trading. This is a good one to look at on the 15-minute orb, right? So this whole orb right here never took out the top of that. So this bottom here, 134 ended up going all the way as low as 131, 132. So a 2-point move on that one. Not saying it's easy, right? Never saying it's easy, but it's definitely consistent, right? Today we looked at Netflix, and we took one. I took a Netflix short. Because I tweeted out a couple times that it was working on this bear flag, and also was basically a double inside 60 with a key reversal bar, kind of around this area. I liked how for a minute, it was like right after I tweeted out the channel, it peaked here, hit the mid Bollinger Band on the 15, and then reversed to the downside. So so very interesting there. Yep. So very sorry about that. So pretty interesting there. Gave us a nice break. I really wanted to see like 1 or 2 point move. We got about a 50-cent move on it, so it wasn't really huge on the options, but it was a good opportunity, right? Because the rest of the market was looking really weak. Everything was pointing down, and it looked like it was in a perfect position to flush if it really wanted to, because you can see this bar here, this red dotted line. That's the prior day's low, and so that was the idea here: is take that that key reversal bar off of the bear flag break to a potential break of the inside day to the downside. Now, I had tried it earlier, right? It had tried it earlier, and then it was actually a quick long, as it failed, to the upside. So it was probably a quick scalp to be made there, but we didn't get a lot of follow through on this here. And of course, now it's up after hours after the insane Apple move after posting terrible earnings and revenue and guidance. So, so that being said, let's take a look at the market overall. Obviously, futures are up right now, so makes sense that they're green. But interestingly enough, the VIX is green too. So that is also interesting. But why? Because tomorrow's Fed day, right? And there's more earnings, right? And maybe Apple is not so, this up move is maybe not so confident, right? So look for a different 15-minute orb trade on Apple tomorrow. So also AMD, I just want to take a look on that too. They had they squeaked by on earnings, and I think had some issues too. Again, same type of algorithmic move. Tagged that 1801 and then bounced back up, and basically did the exact same thing that Apple did here. So AMD will be very interesting to watch tomorrow too. So with AMD up and then Nvidia really down, if there is a huge market push to the upside, Nvidia might come along for the ride, right? Because if you think about it, Nvidia pre-released some earnings saying they're really bad, and Apple pre-released some earnings that were really bad, and they ended up spiking. So it might be like the market might think like, oh well, Nvidia will go up then because Apple gave bad earnings ahead of time, and now they might squeeze to the upside. So that's, we'll see. We'll see how that looks tomorrow, but it should be interesting either way. And then don't forget Fed at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Usually adds a little more volatility to the whole mix. So let's take a look at SPX real quick. Check out the S&P cash here, and let's see. So we've kind of gone through this several times, right? I've already extended the channel out because it's so significant what these levels are, and hopefully you can see that. So this was the whole channel through 2018. From 2017, nice push up into 2018, and then February got that flash crash down, right? Bit of a corrective pattern down, and then took a essentially an impulsive pattern up. So let's say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then double top right off of this channel, and then impulsive move down, ABC2, so wave 1, wave 2, and now we're just still trying to figure out what's going on. With this pattern, was this a wave 3, or is it the start of a bigger wave 3? So we had one theory was that we were working on an ABC correction around this channel line like we've been doing. It looked like it was going to try to give up the ghost today. Kept on trying to push down, still being held up by the bulls here. So really difficult to tell here. I mean, even if it gave us a push here, right, and reversed, I could buy a pivot here at this median line off of the pitchfork and sensibly trade it. But right now we're still dealing with all this chop, and it makes sense because we've got a week full of earnings that is leaving everybody in suspense, right? So the market is in suspense too. So Apple gave her a little pressure relief, but we'll see how it handles it. If it does reverse to the downside, right, and Boeing misses, that could send things down pretty quickly. So so we definitely have to keep an eye on that. So again, right now wave count still kind of stands. We're looking for an A, B, C potential correction here to give us a sub wave 2, and that'll push into a wave 3 of 3, which should lead to ultimately new lows. So so we'll see there, but that takes some time, right? The way these wave counts are, that's out in June as it tries to retest the channel potentially. So we don't know yet. If it does push up, so the key levels that could take out, at that point, this type of reversal would be pretty interesting. Maybe the whole count is wrong, and maybe this was just like a wave A down, potentially some sort of zigzag, and then it might scream to new highs again and then back down again. So right now, not quite textbook setup in terms of Elliott wave, but we do have to keep a lot of these key levels in mind, right? So when the waves don't make too much sense, we deal with it. We look at other technical indicators too. So I mean, if we go to the weekly on the SPX, right, we've got cloud resistance, right? We had an inside week last week, a bit of a flat inside week this week, if as you can imagine with all the choppiness, right? So we're into this cloud, kind of cloud high here, push up tomorrow, I don't know. We'll see. Might hit this mid-Bollinger Band. If Apple's really strong and Boeing's strong, right? And could deal with this cloud a little bit tomorrow. So we look at other indicators, right? The daily, we've got the cloud here too, where we put another essentially looks like just a spinning top day. Yeah, because we had the Dragonfly Doji yesterday. So now we get a spinning top off of that. Still resting on the that channel line. So we've got to see how this market behaves tomorrow. So there's a lot of different indicators, that can give us some additional insight into what's going on with the market there. So that being said, I just want to take a quick look. I want to talk about iron condors today. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about credit spreads and we talked about verticals, right? Vertical spreads, right? You could do a credit spread of that or a debit spread. A debit meaning that it debits your account, meaning you're paying money for it. So it's essentially a long vertical. Or you could do a credit spread, which is a short vertical, right? And so an iron condor, all that is, and let's take a look at it with Apple. Right, because going into earnings, I was kind of one of the things I was saying is like, well, it might be choppy, like. Because I figured they already put their earnings out and they'll just give some lackluster guidance and it would just kind of be choppy, right? So it was a pretty good theory, and that's why I want to talk to you about why iron condors can be dangerous, right? A lot of folks out there, a lot of brokers kind of promote it, and you kind of wonder why they promote it because you got to buy a bunch of legs of options, right? And they get more commission on each of those legs, right? Because the more options you buy. But the reason they promote it, and I guess to their credit, is that it has a high probability of working, right? So when I first started to learn how to do options, I learned about these iron condors and exotic option trades, and I was like, oh, okay, well if I just have the highest probability, I'll win the majority of the time, right? And so that was where I learned about risk to reward, right? I'm like, oh, I'll risk more if I have a high chance of winning, right? And so that's just mathematically, right? It's based on where the market maker moves are, the options. So let me show you a little bit more detail of it. I had one saved here just to look at it, but I'll take that out. So let's take a look at Apple, right? So just to kind of, if you were going to build one of these, you would look at Apple, and we closed at 154, right? And they gave you a market maker expected move of 7.98. Okay, so about 8 points here. Do you need this if you don't have Thinkorswim? No. You can go to your volatility percentage, your implied volatility percentage, and the plus or minus on that, which I would imagine most brokers give you, is also another way to kind of estimate how far it would move based on the implied volatility at 72% here. So honestly, the 72% is not super high. If I'm going to sell volatility, in other words, look to sell a credit spread or something like that, I want this to be a lot higher. If you go to Amazon, I think it's already over 100. So why that gave me a trade grid, I have no idea. Okay, so here's Amazon. Oh, I thought it was over. I saw it at over 100 the other day. Pretty sure I saw it spike up there. Anyway, this is at 77 too. So odd. Maybe Facebook's a little bit higher because they have earnings tomorrow. Yeah, they're at 91%, so that's a little bit higher. So this is a little more interesting. But I want to show you on Apple, just to let you know, because earnings are already out. All right, so what I would do if I were doing an iron condor, the way I used to do it, and granted, I succeeded the majority of the time with these, right? And I'd make a couple $100 on them, and I was like, oh, this is easy. Trading is easy. And but funny, you do it 10 times, right? At a 90% win rate, eventually you're going to lose, right? So that's why having a low risk to high reward strategy instead of a high risk, low reward strategy is better in the long run, right? Because as you get better at trading, and you can pick a low risk, high reward strategy like the vertical spread, or trading based on Elliott wave or some other technique, then you have a better chance of winning more in the long run, right? Because of course your probability of winning is not going to be as high. If you can have a 50% win rate or higher, that's really good, right? But if your risk to reward ratio is higher, then you're going to win in the long run, right? It's just mathematically how it works. And so so the iron condor does not have that. So let me show you. So if we have a market maker move about 10, or 8. What I would do is I'd probably go out $10 to the top or the bottom, right? Just to get the best bang for the buck. So we say 154 minus 10 is 144, right? So let's say, here, okay, I'm like, well, great, we'll stay above 144. So yeah, I feel pretty good about that. So what I would do is I would buy the 143 put, and I would sell the 144 put. So what is that, right? So I'm buying the further out of the money put, right, and selling the further in the money put, right? That is the opposite of a debit spread. This is a credit spread, right? See that? So I'm taking in credit on this trade, okay? So I'm selling premium. I'm selling volatility, right? Makes sense, right? And you can do that. The only issue is, right, if it goes the other way, so I'm basically saying, hey, right, it's a vertical spread going in this direction, right, going higher, right? So if I just click on that, and I look at, what the potential risk reward is, well, I could lose $89, and the most I can make on that is $11, right? Because it's just the opposite of the vertical spread this way, right? It's for the money. If I did this way, I'd probably be risking about $11, right, and a chance to make $80, right? So I would do that if I had a reasonable, charting method or technical analysis method to do that. But anyway, so that's the first leg. So when you build these complex option strategies, you build them from other basic strategies, right? We talked about the back spreads the other day. You're just tacking on additional option legs to maximize your strategy, right? But all in all, long run, short term, just doing singles is the easiest way to do it, and you can still make big money off of it and limit your losses, right? Or if you're going swing trading, the verticals are the easiest, right? Because if you can nail your target, then your profit will be locked in. Okay, so you got a vertical spread going this way. It's your credit spread that goes. So to make the other leg of the Iron Condor, I would go $10 above it, right? So I'd go to 164. Now you're all like, but why are you teaching this stuff if if you never use it or if you don't recommend it? Because I want you to at least be aware of it so you have that knowledge in your arsenal, right? So just because I'm teaching you the technicals of it doesn't mean you should do it, right? In fact, I'm going to show you why you shouldn't do it. Okay, so here. It's showing in the money right now because it's already the after hours is already going in here, but this would have been $10 out of the money on this side. So I'm doing another credit spread to the downside. Okay, and so what you do is when you do that, it sounds great, right? I'm taking an income right away, right? I've got 63 cents, so I'm taking in $63, right away. And if it closes between those two spreads, right? If you think about the way the vertical spreads work, right, you'll make money. So what this is a trade assuming that the stock price is going to stay within a certain range, right? So it's a difference between picking a direction. This is saying it's going to kind of stay still, right? And that's why I was like, well, if Apple stays still, this might be a methodology to do that. But this is the worst option strategy to do, especially in a volatile market like this. And maybe in 2017 you had a higher probability of it working, but here, this you could, like Apple, you could miss on all your numbers and it could just launch, right? It just makes no sense. So so what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to right click on Iron Condor real quick so you can take a look at what the trade looks like. I'm going to take one of these out because I was practicing it earlier, and you can see how those legs look, right? So this is your credit spread off of the calls, right? So this is saying, hey, I think it's going to be less than that call spread. So that would be this leg right here. And then this is the credit spread off of the puts. Okay? So what it's saying is, it's a little bit, it's just because of the range I clicked in the prices and whatever was cooked into those option prices. But basically what I'm saying is here, if it was over 144 or if it's less than 164, right, that $10 range, to the top side or the downside based on that 155 center line, if it stays within that range, then I'm going to make money, right? Great. But the only issue is, right, and so you can even see what your profitability is, right? It shows you right here, max profit here is $63, but max risk on this side is negative 187, and max risk over here is 37. So you can imagine that risk could really add up really quickly if you buy 10 of these things, right? So you're risking almost $2,000 here on this side, and you're risking $400 on this side to make $600, right? So you're basically risking $2,000 to make $600. Okay, if it's a, if somebody told you had a 90% chance of doing that, would you do it? And I used to say yeah, and then so 90% chance. Let's say you do 10 of them in a row, right? And you're making $200-300 a shot, right? Well, when you have one that finally misses out of 10, right? Then it gobbles up a ton of your profits, and and usually that percentage is not as good as it sounds. So trust me on that one. Very dangerous strategy. Okay, a lot of the brokers encourage you to do it because why would they do that? Because just one iron condor, you're giving them commission on 4 things altogether, right? On 4 options altogether. If you do 10 of them, it's 40 as opposed to maybe just buying 10 calls or 10 puts on something. So just be careful of that. It is a very challenging strategy, and as you can see. Already level 2, right? We looked at it, right? We're already at 163, 164, and so already we're at a very close range of losing money on this trade. And if it takes the 15 orb up tomorrow and we get a gap and go and Boeing is really good, this is ultimately going to be a losing trade and not very fun at all. So yes, so this is the technical way to make an iron condor, and you've gotten the lesson on risk to reward, right? Why I don't recommend those at all. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. So we've gone over the market, reviewed the market. We talked about Apple. Just a real quick touch on Target and the $50,000 challenge. We talked about Netflix already, but Target was looking really, really good. I just and it did give a good bunch of folks cash profit like early in the morning, right when it kind of dropped. So that's good. Today I kind of got out, I think like around here, because I was like, well, it's going up. There's no sense in getting chopped up around here. And I thought to myself, I was like, if Apple ends up beating, right, for whatever reason, whether it beats or if it ends up going up, right, it's going to bring the market up with it. As you can see, it's kind of doing that. And I don't want to get caught in that. Even though this is a great technical setup, I just don't want to get rolled over by the market, right, on a good idea. So is what it is. We made a little bit of profit on that, and then a little profit on Netflix. So good to go there. At this point, if anybody's got any questions or chart requests, feel free to put them in the chat window, and I'll run through those. I want to give a shout out to Kevin tonight. He sent me a DM earlier and wanted me to look at Huya. So we'll take a look at that. Let's see what we got going on with Huya. Huya is an interesting one. I've let's see, going all the way down to 1444 from a high of 50. So it looks like a little bit like Tilray, doesn't it? Right, with those descending triangles. Triangle, triangle, triangle. Triangle, right? So all the way down to $14. Interestingly enough, it's what was this, the IPO time or whatever, was about that range too. So it's basically went all the way down to test its IPO range. It's kind of bouncing off of that right now. Key volumetric levels, as you can see, are right here. It's actually right at it at this $20 level. Nice even number. If it can get above that, right? And it tried to do it the other day. You've got a gap to fill here over 21. If it can get above this and push, then it wants to get over 23. You've got another gap to fill right here in that 24 range, right? And a big volume pocket here. So it's really got to get above that. You can see it's sort of like an extended, maybe there's a bit of a cup and handle type feel to it. Very possible it could chop around for a little. We'll see. So this is the ultimate low. So if it is ultimately going on a reversing pattern, right? You could have one here, ABC2, right? Didn't take out the level 1 low. And then we could have maybe like a subwave 1, 2, and then working on a sub-subwave 3, and could ultimately be trying to get up, like I said, to that 24, 25 level. Here. So it'd basically be a bet on saying that maybe trade talks are going to go well with China, right? So this is going to follow kind of being a Chinese stock is going to kind of follow that type of trade news type stuff. But right now it recently broke out of this volumetric resistance, came back in to retest it. Now we got to see if it holds. With Apple going up tomorrow, it might be something something to look at. Let's just take real quick. Let's look at the fib fan off of the peak to the trough. See how that looks. Okay, very interesting. So notice how peak to trough on the Fibonacci fan. If you didn't catch that video last night, you can go back and review it. But we just went over the Fib fan, and interestingly enough, it touched on that as resistance, kind of came back into the volumetric level, and now we'll see if it can break through that 21-22 area again to maybe give a next target again up at this 24-25 type range. So they've got earnings coming out on the 12th, so in 2 weeks. So do you swing through that? I mean, if this looks like a 1-2 and we're working on a 3, it would be appropriate for it to gap up here and finish your wave 3 as an impulsive move. So not a bad wave setup going on there. So we'll see. We'll see what Boeing says, and I think Baba is reporting tomorrow. Yeah, it says reporting tomorrow before the open. So that should give if it's got really good earnings or outlook and all that stuff, it could very well give all the Chinese names a boost too. So something to look at there. So very interesting indeed. So hope that's helpful. Let's check out the chat. See what's going on here. Merritt, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Matt, how's it going, buddy? I hope you had a great day too, man. Kyle, what's going on, man? Hey, Bubs, you mentioned before that you personally don't worry about aftermarket moves. Is there a reason for this? Wouldn't it affect analysis? So here's the deal with that. So basically, aftermarket moves, they don't get really logged in the span of history, right? So when you go look at, I guess you can these days with with the way computers are, but in general, right, they don't go as your daily high-low, right? They're not really part of of the overall broad open market, right? You can't market into or market out of a trade, right? If you could, then we'd just be open, 24 hours, of the hours of the trading day would just be longer, right? There'd be no open hours and after hours. So does it influence decisions? It does. It helps influence like targets, things like that. You can use it as a gauge. Sometimes I look at pre-market highs, pre-market lows, as potential targets. There might be like some money up there on a stop or something like that you can go after as a target. But for the most part, I just don't play it into most of the daily stuff, right? So, and I definitely don't do wave counts on it because traditionally what's going to happen is it's going to show up in the waves as a gap, right? Anyway, right? So, and then you can just look. You don't have to really study the intricacies of the gap. You just know it's there, right? And so, and like I said, those gap prices are just show non-continuity of market pricing, right? And that's why they those gap windows tend to get filled, right? So just because something hits something pre-market doesn't mean that it actually filled an open gap as the charts are recorded as the open and close, for the record books, right? So that's pretty much the ultimate reason. I mean, you can use it, of course. I mean, it's still price. It just is when it's just so everything is limit ordered, right? It's not an open market, and so you don't have that. The prices aren't as true, right? To what the market. There's a lot of manipulation that goes on there. So. But you can still trade technical analysis off of it and all that stuff. Like even this morning, I did like a little bit, not options, just like common shares on 3M. So if you go to the, if you go to the 15 chart here, I think I even used the hourly chart. It kind of got to hit 200, which is still a key number, right? Nice whole number break there, and then came into Bollinger Band, right? And then RSI was overbought, based on the pre-market data, and I sold a few shares short in the pre-market, just not a lot, not even 100 shares, like 10 shares and 20, but just to kind of be involved, just to see it, and then lo and behold, right, boom, just kind of dropped like really quickly to the mid Bollinger Band there. So, 100 shares on that would have been $600, but. Just a little something. So you can still trade it, right? But you have to use limit orders. You can't get out, easily, and it's it's just, it doesn't record in the daily book. So when you're looking at your regular charts and you're analyzing wave counts or whatever the case is, it's and you can target gaps that way. So it's there. There's data there, and it's interesting. I just don't let it influence my my daily trading so much. So, but obviously it's important, right? Because that's what creates the gaps. And it does affect the analysis a little bit, right? So, but there should still be some continuity. So you can use it if you want to, but I just don't, because it's superfluous, right? In a lot of ways. So I just trade open market. Whenever you can market in and out, that's kind of what I look at. So, but you can still use it and make money off of it. What's going on, AC? How's it going, man? Brandon, what's going on? You caught Nvidia today with 2 on 133 puts out for early profit. Very good, man. Awesome job. CGC dropped big today. How much more downside do you think it has? Yeah, my pleasure, man. Let's see. So CGC. I believe we had a pitchfork on here. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so CGC, we talked about this yesterday a little bit. We talked about the chance that that it might pull back again, to the median line. So here, there is a gap to fill again at this 44.25, and so if it pushes there, fills that gap, and then pivots back up. So yes, that's what I would say. If anything, that's a decent target is 44.25. But with the market probably screaming up tomorrow, we'll see. I don't know. I haven't really studied the wellness stocks too much to see if they're kind of inverse of the market or not, but they sure have seemed to be that way. But we do have RSI oversold here on the daily. We've pivoted here, kind of at these key volumetric levels. So 44.25 is a possibility. Otherwise, if the market is not moving it at all, it might pivot here and look to see if there's a pivot at the median line. If it does pivot, you might get another push to the upside. So here you can see what happened last time. RSI got oversold, right? Kind of came up, came back in again, pushed up again, pretty high, right? Then RSI got overbought, again, and then came back in, but then it came back up, right? And then this here just peaked on the RSI and then really dropped. So just something to take note of, right? That it is looking overbought. Sorry if I said oversold earlier in the RSI area. So again, like I said, 44.25 is a decent first target, for a gap fill on that. But look for resistance here at 46. Oh, it's already there. So you're good. So yeah, maybe to that area. Manoj, what's going on? Tesla, Microsoft, trade idea. Absolutely. So Tesla, how are those, where we're at? So we're at 397. I got stopped out of those 320 calls, and what were they at, 440 or something like that? $4.40. And I got them at 525. So let's see, the 320s are at $7. So yeah, and that it only moved up $3 since like the last time, but it's just now you're getting that. I just wish I didn't get stopped out of that one. So, but it's okay. You got to honor your stops and all that stuff. So, I mean, even the low today was 560. I was in originally at 520, but it's really pushing, and you're looking at getting that kind of premium rush on earnings for tomorrow. So overall, kind of big picture, it is still extremely Oh, sorry, I thought I was shrinking or increasing the screen there. So overall, it is pretty complicated. But we did have this pitchfork that looked pretty interesting, right? Kind of served as good median line area. We have pivoted off of the pitchfork here. So it does look like it's potential strong to the upside. Apple may give it a little bit of a boost. It's up a little bit after market, but it's definitely waiting on the earnings results. So hopefully it'll at the very least be entertaining tomorrow. You remember I went long here. I believe in this area somewhere where we closed like right at. I think I went long here under the Bollinger Band, and I liked it because RSI was kind of a little bit low, and looked like it had a good. Had been pushed down quite enough, and went long there. And as you can see, we opened pretty low, and then it just pushed a little bit at the bottom, and it grabbed my stop off of the options, and then kind of launched off of that. So a little bit bad on the timing, but it's okay. Now it's got 3 hammers in a row, and basically tomorrow we just got to see if we get some follow through on earnings. So Elon Musk likes to put on a show there. So if he does a good job, it could push this thing up. Well, wherever it wants to go. I mean, it could potentially even fill a gap. I mean, this stock is nuts, right? So it could go all the way up to 350, after earnings. So we just don't know. He could come out. He might have something up his sleeve, like funding is secured from wherever, and and it could launch. So keep an eye on that one. And Microsoft. Let's take a look at Microsoft. Yeah, Microsoft, another trade I got stopped out of. Tesla out of the personal account, Microsoft out of the $50,000 challenge account. So we had the double inside day, gapped up. So I traded it into the inside. It worked initially, and then I just that's where I used the pre-market value there, Kyle, as a stop. It was like 107, like 51 or something like that. And so I just used that. I was like, well, if it gets over that, then I got to get out, right? And then at the same time, it was pushing out through the cloud, and Amazon was ripping at the time. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna get out. Ended up forming a doji right at the cloud level. And remember when we did our cloud lesson, we talked about when the cloud thins out like that. It often indicates change of direction. So it did go up into a thinning cloud and certainly did change direction, and it did give a doji day on it. So that is very interesting to note. And it's already pushed down pretty far. It's down below the mid-Bollinger Band. Now, granted, I wish I had held on to those puts. They would have been really worth a lot today. But these things happen. Notice how it was held by this volumetric resistance line, and then kind of came back up a little bit. So now my guess is it kind of gaps up a little bit with Apple tomorrow and the rest of tech, and then what it's going to do is it's going to see itself kind of flat in the in the range here of the let's say it gaps up a little bit here, maybe gets a little bit of a push. It's going to be right back into this resistance. So does that tell us what it's going to do for earnings? It really doesn't, because if it really beats on earnings, which it might with all its recent defense contracts and stuff like that, it could blow right through the cloud and eventually get up back to 108 or so. So to me, it looks possible, right? So we had a 1-2, maybe 1-2, 1-2, and then it could still work for like a 3-wave up, 4, and then 5. So I mean, generally, the pullbacks do look bullish, and so it does look like it's aiming to get through this cloud here, and it could do that with earnings. So yeah, so no real recommendations before that, but it does look bullish. Jimmy, what's going on, man? Doing great. Yeah, let's take a look at IQ and Merck. Sure. So IQ, again, with Baba reporting tomorrow if they have good earnings. Today's pullback might have been a good opportunity to get in on that, but it's definitely worth watching. So it gave us an inside day within the cloud. So a break to the upside, right? So I think if it gets back over this 1950 kind of range, it could push and finally get back over 20. Otherwise, if it breaks to the downside, it might test the bottom of this cloud or the mid-Bollinger Band. In general, inside week, I think the month's kind of pretty much the same thing. And let's see how we are on the daily. Again, breakout here through this declining trend line, the downward trend line, and kind of working its way back up. It does overall look pretty bullish here. Wave count wise look like a 1-2, and then working on a subwave 3. And I think once it, if it finds that breakout point, which could be soon, my theory was, the $20 vertical spread on this through earnings. Look at it used to be the 30th, now it's the 5th. So anyway, could get a push if Baba looks good and the market's up tomorrow. So, but definitely a big volumetric kind of air pocket right here that if it does eventually get a run, it could really move, all the way up to the mid 20s. So, so it should be pretty interesting on that. Merck, how's it doing? It's got earnings coming up February 1st. In general, it held up pretty well even after the Pfizer had some bad numbers today. But let's draw a trend line here. So it appears to be holding onto this trend line. I could even put a channel on this. It looks almost channelable. Let's look at this here, there. Something like that. So, I mean, it seems to be working its way up, keeps on retesting these lines. Obviously, if it breaks down below, kind of 70, 50 or something like that, if you get a red bar through there, this trend line, would probably be failed. And then, who knows what earnings is going to do with that. But in general, it looks like it's still working its way up, kind of a longer term, kind of trend line area. So that looks pretty interesting. Candlestick wise, interesting on the daily. Like I said, right here, you're at this, here's that channel line I drew earlier, this red line, and it's kind of just a spinning top right here at a cloud resistance area, and the 5 MA is actually crossing over the 10 MA, so kind of gives you a dead cross here. So just watch the day's lows. So watch a break below 72.50 and then 72. A 72 break might give it a little bit of a push to the downside, and keep in mind its 200-day moving average is at 67. So that is a possible fail target, right? And right below that's volumetric resistance as well, support as well. Merritt, what's going on, man? Xilinx, how'd that do today? I heard, I think Option Sniper was talking about it doing well. I think it had a push at some point. It's only finished up 3 cents on the day. Had a little bit of a push, finished with an inside day, and this is kind of my theory here. This is actually is looking pretty bearish to me. A couple of you guys mentioned that Xilinx is like a 5G player or something. That's like the new thing these days. But we did put an inside day, so I would watch the lows tomorrow. If the market is weak tomorrow, this might be ready to come in a little bit, right? Because it's starting to consolidate at the upper Bollinger Band, and the RSI. That's a very powerful indicator when you have the RSI in overbought or oversold positions at a key Bollinger Band level, and it's there right now. So if I was going to trade for a reversal, it would be pretty soon, because you have an inside day and an inside day break to the downside. I mean, it could bring it at least down to 105. So so I would definitely keep an eye on it. It's in a good reversal position here. So so yeah, that's my 2 cents on Xilinx. And then Tilray, I'm basically just going to say I have no idea because it's so crazy. I did learn something last night. I read about. I never really use logarithmic scales, but when you guys look at these, so ultimately it's still inside this kind of pitchfork area. It looks like it's pivoting with this descending triangle. So if it does push below, let's say 71.50, it might get another push down to like the 50s, right? So anytime you have these moves that go from 20 to 300, right, it's really tough to draw trend lines and things like that. What you can do is I don't know if I could do it here. What you do is you go to your settings, you click on your settings button, and I don't think you'll be able to see my pop-up. But you go to price access, and then you type on use a log scale. You hit apply. Okay, and that has now moved this to, I believe, a logarithmic scale. At least it's supposed to. And supposedly they're on these big crazy moves. They're easy to draw trend lines, but I'm not really seeing that right now. But anyway, ultimately, yeah, middle of the pitchfork area with a potential pivot forming at the upper pitchfork line. And if that happens to be the case, then I would look to see this to the downside, especially if it overshoots this triangle and then comes back through, right? So that 72.50 area is pretty key to possibly get back down to the 50s. So yeah, I thought I was going to be able to show you. I guess it is on log scale, but I don't really see any difference. All right, I just clicked the 2 and nothing happened. So maybe there was a difference. I just didn't see it. So maybe there's not enough time. Maybe you need more time or something like that on the logarithmic scale. But it was just something I read last night, so I just wanted to test it out real quick. So I wasn't really prepared for it. But yeah, it probably has something to do with time. But anyway, that's Tilray. Jordan, what's going on, man? Goldman Sachs and BABA. Yeah, so BABA, we know we got that coming in the morning. Goldman Sachs, I closed my put spread after the last gap up. I thought it had a pretty good shot of reversing. Kind of pivoted here, and then we're back in the looked like we were going back in the pitchfork, and so I did a put spread on that. It looks like it's more or less consolidating, possibly forming a bull flag, and so we're pennant. And so at this point, I am no longer in it. Right? I liked it. Remember, the RSI was overbought. Had a good. Looked like it had some pretty good potential, but yeah, I didn't have a lot of risk on it. But let's see did it have that RSI situation too? Kind of. This is about where I was here. RSI was overbought. at the upper Bollinger Band, kind of crossed back in. It had a nice push, to the downside, but didn't get enough follow through, right? So I was up in it for a little bit, and then just holding on to it. And I was like, well, I was up enough in McDonald's today. I'll just go ahead and close it out. It's not really costing any money, and I still had a little profit. But yeah, so that's Goldman Sachs. So you can kind of see, like I said, kind of bull flagging here. It had this kind of trend line, channel, prior channel support, and now it's kind of forming as resistance. So it's poking its head through the daily cloud. It could push up a little bit back to that 205 area. I might actually consider shorting it again around that 205, 206, but we'll see. And but yeah, it does look like it has some potential to the upside. If the market rips tomorrow, and if Boeing is good, this is a good one to look at to go long because it's breaking out of the cloud right here. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have on that. Like it's kind of broke through these levels. Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't a channel. This was a reaction line. But yeah, so I would look to see how far it could push up there. But again, still kind of overbought conditions. I would eventually expect it to roll over at some point, but I went ahead and closed the vertical on that one. And BABA, like I said, earnings in the morning, could do anything. If it follows, if it has good earnings after Apple's kind of show, then it can definitely launch, and then at least get you back up to eventually this 177 kind of pitchfork median area. Tesla, did we look at that yet already? I think I looked at it briefly when I was talking about something. Yeah. So Tesla, we got also have earnings coming up after the close tomorrow. So we got huge earnings week this week, and we have Powell tomorrow at the Fed at 2:00. So here we've pivoted at the lower pitchfork range, and it just looks strong. And we just looked at the options on it. So those $4 options are now $7, and it could get some follow through. So we'll see. But there's a lot of shenanigans on Tesla, so you gotta be careful with it because it could be way down here tomorrow. As much as it could be up here. So just be careful with that one. And AVCO, Avalon Globe. Whoa, yeah, we looked at this one the other day. Huge breakout, and it's already kind of rubber banded back in. Kind of reclaimed that whole 1 day's range back in, and now it's kind of hanging out here. So what we'll do is we'll do a fib line. Let's see if I can get we'll go trough to peak. Fib fan, we'll go trough to peak. Just kind of see what it's doing, and notice here it retraced all the way back to that this what was it, 61.8? Is that what we did on the retracements? Oops, sorry. Yeah, 61.8. So so kind of came back all the way there, kind of hung out in these other Fibonacci areas. So this might actually be some pretty good resistance here. So use that as your support area. It's got volumetric support at $5.65 ish. So just use that as kind of your support area. If it gets below that, just no need to be in it. But it could try to at least retest the mid to upper 7 area, depending on what's going on with this thing. So it looks pretty interesting though. What else we got? WBT. All right. So that does look interesting too. Let's do a fib fan on this one. From peak to trough. So it is coming up to resistance here. To me, this looks like it's setting up a decent wave count. We've got 219 is the next earnings date on this. It looks like maybe a wave 1, ABC 2, wave 3. It could be expanded flat 4. Or this could have been 3, and it could be working on A, B, C. But either way, it's coming up into some Fibonacci type resistance area. It may just go down a little bit, but either way, it looks like it might head down at some point. So it looks almost like a 1, 2, 3, 4. It might give you a 5, to the downside. So kind of interesting on that one too. What's going on, Zig? How are you? Javier, what's going on? Hola. Just kidding. Joseph Maddox, what's up, man? I would like to speak with you through email about partnering with us. My email is, okay. Here's the links to Discord. Yeah, that's all good, man. I appreciate it, though. Matt, what's going on? BBBY and ALGN. Profit Planet. All right. Okay, cool. So, Matt, so we got BBBY. We looked at this one, I think yesterday or the other day. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, looking interesting. So, yeah, we looked at this one after it had some earnings. So it does, interesting enough, it looks like it's doing a pennant right here. As long as it stays above this 1435, it's got a chance of breaking out of the pitchfork range over 15 and possibly filling a gap. So, but of course there's a gap below too, so watch out there. But it does look like it's forming a flag or a pennant right there. And then ALGN. Holding. Sorry, guys. Yep, doing pretty well. I mean, excuse me. Island bottom. After missing on earnings. Gosh, that's an expensive little guy right there, isn't it? So let's see. We had a peak here. Say trough here. It's kind of run into a little bit of that Fibonacci kind of resistance area. May ultimately want to go lower. This could be a 1, 2, 3. ABC 4. Maybe 5. It's really tough to tell on the wave count right here. But with earnings coming up today, did we have earnings today? What did it do? Let me see. Oh, earnings after hours. I gotcha. All right, yeah. So puking after hours, and then kind of rebounding a little bit. It is always interesting to draw fib lines on these, just to see, the full range there. So it gave you, it came all the way back up here, right? Did it beat on earnings? Not quite. So I had the miss, right? Obviously, it screwed around. Algo screwed up a little bit. Push it back down. Look at that. It retraced all the way to 61.8 retracement, and now is just kind of consolidating around this 50 area. So, I would look probably for some more downside on this thing. I think it's retraced all it wants to aftermarket, and so just look to trade the 15-minute orb on this one tomorrow, just to see if you can get some follow through. It does look interesting. Chris, what's going on? BRKB? Let's see. What is happening here? Is this brand new? I know it's Berkshire Hathaway, but they just like re-release some stock or something like that. Not sure I'm not really exactly sure what happened with this one. I don't really follow Berkshire Hathaway too much. I mean, I know it used to be like 20 million grand or something like that, but yeah, I'm not sure why it's not really popping up. I don't really have. Sorry, Chris, I don't really have too much to offer that, just because I don't have much chart to really give you. Thanks to Thinkorswim on that one. But yeah, I mean, probably long-term investing, right, in Berkshire Hathaway, right? So, Darren, what's going on, man? PCG and GME. Cool. I'm glad you're liking it. Yeah, it's tough to get everything ready before I gotta go really quickly after I get home and scarf down some food, and I don't get as much planning time, but I get to go to bed a little bit earlier, so it's worth it there. Okay, so PCG, just getting demolished. I tried to get it. Try to trade it on that, that link saying that they were going to be absolved of all their crimes and all that stuff. It might give you a little push up here to the upside, but ultimately it's going to be running into a lot of resistance to the upside. I think it's hard to keep the Utes down, but they are declaring bankruptcy and all that stuff, so it might get some further follow through. I mean, it's a very choppy, kind of, possibly like wave 1, A, B, C, 2, maybe 3. This is 4, right? And then look for a wave 5 to the downside. So, so possible move there on PCG, and then GME is a good one too, to look at. How did the 15 orb do on that one today? It's just a tough stock to trade a little bit, but you had a 15-minute orb right here, so the low of that was 1165. I mean, it's tough to make tons of money off of anything on this thing, right? So, but if you had 1,000 shares short, you could have made relatively quickly, $200 or something like that. So, just off of that 15-minute orb. But other than that, I've watched the 30-minute orb tomorrow. But apparently GameStop is back to where it was not too long ago after they announced that they're not going to be selling, and so now it's going to be just as boring to trade as it was a long time ago. So, or not, so just a while ago. Tough little stock to trade, right? So, but it did go up. Look at that, it kind of went up into this whole cloud area, and then finally gapped down. So, kind of interesting on that one. Parakeet, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Oh yeah, this 368 call is doing great on BA. I remember. I know, man. You rocked it. You were all over that one. So, Kyle G, if you get a chance, check out Disney. Okay, I'll check out Disney. And then Shirley, are you on tonight? If not, I'm going to. I'll do this one and get going. Instead of swimming at the pool today, we're actually going to run outside and play in the snow in the dark. So it might be pretty fun. Okay, so we've got. Let's see. Good old Diz. Let's see how the Diz is doing. So Diz, inside week so far, it's kind of stepping its way down a little bit. Daily, kind of working its way into cloud resistance here, right? Let's see how it thinned out here and just kind of came back in, but really really flat. I mean, I don't know what's been going on with Disney. It doesn't really get in two major moves, but it did give you a nice push up into at the end of the day. And all in all, obviously, very bullish type trend. So I'll just make sure it stays over 102-ish area, and then eventually it's going to come out. It almost looks like it's doing like a triangle up here. I mean, some type of triangle formation. I mean, I would expect it to go a little bit lower, than maybe try again to the upside. But this could ultimately be like a 1, 2, 3 triangle 4, right? And then potential 5. If it does get out of that triangle, so you guys know how triangles work, right? We talked about that. And if it could break through, if it undershoots here, I would look to go long. And then duplicate drawing. And then usually your expected move after that would be possible new highs up into the 130s. So maybe they'll have like some stellar earnings. See if if it's a pullback or just breaks out through it. But it does look like it's kind of working on some sort of wedge type triangle. So very interesting to look at. See if it gives you a breakout at some point over there. So yeah, that's it. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it should be pretty good. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Good stuff today. We talked about iron condors. We talked about Apple. We talked about the market. A bunch of awesome chart requests, and I really appreciate you guys, jumping on and participating. Again, if you ever can't make it, oh, Shirley, there you are. Let's look at AU. Rocking and rolling, right? Finally broke out there for you. Got through the. Let's see. Still wants to get through that channel. Give me 1 second. There. Here. Oh my goodness. Ah! Wow. Can I not get my... Oh, because it keeps on going back to that fan line. Yeah, doing good, Shirley. So nice breakout here, through that pitchfork line. Gave you a pivot right up there at 1376. So, obviously at this point, if the market's ripping tomorrow and all that stuff, might pull back again, and then pivot again and back to the upside. So, some potential there. But I hope you grab some profits on that. So good stuff. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. So I hope you guys have a great evening. Thank you again, Prayer Kid. Thanks, everybody, for participating. And I will catch you guys tomorrow on Twitter. And hopefully I've got a free day trade left in Robinhood. So hopefully we'll get another trade out there, too. And maybe we'll get some follow-through on this one. So have a good night, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.